when if you experience something like that.
Well, too, scientists now have come out in the medical field and said that when you die, your brain is not dead. It can continue, inputting surroundings of sound and sight up to maybe 9, 10, 13 minutes before your brain then slowly, totally ceases to function. Can you imagine, like when they used to chop people's heads off with the guillotine, there's always been wise tales of that, the guy's head was, cut off and it rolled. And the guy's eyes were still, moving and looking at the crowd of people, and the eyelids were opening and closing. You know what? Maybe they were inputting, but could you imagine the shock? You're dead, right? And it depends on how you die. I guess if you die in your sleep, that's one thing. You might have that long dream of going out to, through the tunnel and all that stuff. But maybe depending on how you die, maybe a violent death or whatever, something happens. Could you imagine rationalizing, hey, what happened to me? I just got shot. Am I dead? Am I alive? I can't move. It just makes you wonder. I mean, I guess maybe that's our goodbye swan song.
That we don't know, and maybe it's so dramatic, like you're saying, that you keep repeating it over. You don't realize that maybe you've died. You just don't know.
If anybody hears a hammering in the background, that is coming from me. It's not a malfunction off your computer or your radio, depending on what it is. They're putting a new door in down the hall. So that's what the noise is of the hammering. But, that's, the things like that, when you die, your brain is trying to process what's going on. So, I mean, what's your input on that, James?
Yeah, I'll tell you, that's a hard one, because I've come across many of spirits, and some of them they really don't know they've died. And so if you kind of look at on their end of it, think of yourself. Say you're living 1 minute and something happens so fast and dramatic, you don't even know you died. So those last seconds that were leading up to your death, that's all that's sticking into your head. That's all you know. So you kind of repeat that, even though you're dead and you're still intelligent, but you don't know.
Wow.
So you can't,
Yeah, but how about the people, my friend, Art, before he passed on, he had this phobia about dying. People talk about, they go in through a tunnel, right? They see all these bright lights, and then they start seeing relatives, like RW, for example. And they see all this stuff. Now, is that actually going up to heaven, or is that your mind is just processing stuff and slowly shutting down? So it's taking you for like an acid trip,
Well, I don't know. We really don't know. I can tell you my opinion. I think it's your relatives to come to greet you, to take you on the other side, to your next adventure, whatever it may be, with the next realm. And I do believe that, and I do believe if you don't go, you're an earthbound spirit. You're kind of stuck here on this realm, and I believe that's what a lot of spirits are in a lot of these houses. And I think over the years, if you were kind of a bad person to begin with and you didn't cross over, you're a really old cranky spirit. Sometimes you could be. I've come across those.
Yeah, I don't know. Like my friend Art was so terrified, about dying. Because, hearing people talk about it and all this stuff, I hate to say it, one of his guests and friends actually got on there and says, you don't want to go to the light because that is a trick. You want to go towards the darkness, which then will take you into the light. But if you go into the light first, it's going to take you the wrong direction. I don't know. And he was really, who wants to wait to find out? If you go before I go, will you do me a favor? I'll get a spirit box here in the next few weeks, and if anything happens to you, just tell me what it's like, will you?
I will do that. I will let you know. But my advice is just follow your loved ones. They're going to come there to greet you, to guide you to the right way.
Well,
That's
I know my father. The last time I saw him, I got a phone call. He was in the nursing home. He had dementia and Alzheimer's, both. And he was a vegetable for a long period of time. And I get this freaky call. They said, come down now that your dad is fully coherent. And I'm sitting here after talking to, the doctors for the last year. They said he was nothing much more than, a vegetable. And that he would never come back out of it. When I went to see him, I swear to God, he was totally coherent. Totally coherent. He was sitting up in the bed. He was asking me how things were going. Did I still have my business? Was I still doing stuff in radio? Was I doing this? And then we talked about, my kids. We talked about a whole bunch of stuff. And then he would sat there and said, well, I saw your mom today and she's waiting for me. And I saw, her brothers, which they were really close. She had 3 brothers. And he was talking about them and all this stuff. And then he says to me, he goes, well, son, it's time to go. You need to leave now. I'm going to be joining your mom. And I didn't, I had maybe a 40-mile ride, a drive home. And by the time I got home, I found out he passed away almost right after I left. So whatever happened, something brought him out of a vegetable state. He was normal talking, alert, and then passed on. So, maybe he was talking to my mom and talking to my uncles and all this stuff. I don't know. I just don't want to find out for another 50 years, okay?
Well, I totally believe that, and I also believe there's a lot of synchronicity going on there, because if you look at the parallels between that scenario and then look at the parallels to your beloved pet who passed away, who had the, cataracts or was blind there. And didn't she kind of come back and have sight there at the last second and kind of have closure?
Yeah, both my dogs. It was weird. They died a few months apart, but the last one was blind and in diapers and had cataracts. Eyes were pure white. I mean, you could shine a flashlight in her eyes and she wouldn't see it. Now, she was acting weird, had breathing problems like the last week of her living. Anyway, one of my sons go in there and said, hey, she's making a weird noise. So I go in there, and naturally I heard some weird noise and it scared me. So I picked her up. Okay. And the first thing I noticed, her eyes were normal. The cataracts were totally gone. So I'm holding her in my arms. She's looking around in the bedroom. Okay, I even put my cell phone with the flashlight in her eyes, and she blinked. She could see the light, and she was looking around, and then within a couple minutes she was gone. But it was, I guess, closure. I don't know what happened. I don't know how. I asked the vet, and the vet said, no, there's no way that the cataracts could have gone away. And I said they were her eyes were normal, and she could see. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
But it did happen. Now, science can't explain it, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. It was a very loving thing between you and her, and just like you and your father. And it was it was a connection thing before they passed on. They said goodbye and.
Oh yeah,
let you know everything was okay, and let you know everything was okay.
In fact, when she passed on, I gave her mouth to mouth. She came back, and she came back for like 2-3 minutes. And I remember she looked at me, started licking my hand, went into convulsions, and that was it.
Yep. Yeah. So that just kind of goes to tell you right there's a lot of the answers that you seek is within. You've already they're in front of you if you just kind of really look at it. And again, your loved ones, you'll know. You'll know.
Oh yeah.
You'll know.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Do you know my birthday is January 8th? What are you going to get me? I'm going to be 68 years old. And I'm really getting, how can I say it? It was bad enough when hit 40, then I hit 50, when I hit the big 60. And now it's like every year is more precious because how many more do I have? How many do we all have? Well, and also in the UK today, a UFO left strange landing marks and terrified a bunch of fishermen because they saw the landing marks. They heard the sound of a UFO.
Oh, yeah, I think I read something about that, and what else was? Yeah, it did scare them. As a matter of fact, they seen it land, I believe, and then they took off, and wasn't their boat engine wouldn't start, and finally they were scared to death and trying to get out of there, and it finally started. I believe that's the same story.
It could be, but you know what? It is so scary. Now, a missing cat in Oregon was found 5 years later in New Mexico.
Oh, that sounds like that one story where they got lost and they walked 400 miles to get back home or something. But that is bizarre. Do you know how many predators out there that grab up lost cats? That's amazing.
Well, I know a lot of people, you don't want to lose a pet out there in the street. And also in Germany, a Chinese crab was found wandering down the street. And they came to the conclusion that the German police came to the conclusion it must have been an escapee from the kitchen.
Oh, that's nice. Escapee, Octone, the escapees on the loose. Look out. Oh, boy.
A bagel store manager drives 7 hours to return a lost set of keys left by a customer, fall in love, and get married.
Boy, oh boy, that reminds me. I lost them. Told somebody stole them one time about I don't know, a long time ago, and I went to a yard sale the next day and met my future deceased wife. Isn't that crazy? You never know about these things, yard sales and returning keys and things. Be aware.
Maybe she purposely left the keys there.
Yeah, you never know.
In some way to trace her down, to find. But I don't know. A woman flies 500 miles to lose her virginity to a man 24 years her senior. Now, I'm telling you, this is wacky news. I'm reading it. I mean, again, you can't have a good wacky story every time, but I'll tell you that. Why would you want, number one, fly 500 miles to lose your virginity to somebody 24 years older? Come on.
Yeah, that's all up to your parent. Jesus. That is just weird. Yeah, I don't know where to go with that. Were they from Florida?
Probably not. But do you know what? With sex dolls, do you think men are buying more sex dolls than women? I'm talking about the ones that look humanoid. It has functions and all that stuff and actually can talk. Who is it? The men buying them or is it the women buying them?
I know it's probably going to say women, but I think men probably buy them more. I don't know, probably pretty close. I don't know. I have no clue. That's
50 to 1 women.
That's a landslide. I question those figures. That just seems high, 50 to 1.
Well, yeah, maybe women don't want to be involved with a relationship, right? They don't want to have an actual husband or a boyfriend. Maybe they got a career. What better way? Get an artificial man.
Now, I've seen a TV show is talking about those things, and they weigh about the real weight of a person. So I don't know what the man one would weigh, 150 pounds, maybe 200, but that's a lot for if a woman's not very big to be lugging around. I wonder if they deliver it in a brown paper bag. Jeez.
Oh, and they would be actually in about a 7-foot box. Anyway, we'll be back in about 2.5-3 minutes. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio. Check out our website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. Make sure you hit the listen button. You can listen to us when we're live or listen to replays for always. They're always for free, at least for right now. And check out our store.
A dream, scintillas in the stream. for